So this is my home. It's been my home for 4 years. I've traveled to other places here and there. Basically been to every major city in Colombia.
How did you decide on Colombia for a place to live?
Man, it's like nothing that I had ever seen before, especially Medellín. The cost of living versus the quality of life is unmatched. I've never been back to Australia since I left in 2019.
Really?
Not once,
Just
yeah.
Went and didn't look back.
Didn't look back and just kept, living.
In order to do business with someone or to collaborate with someone in Colombia, it's important that you know who they are, kind of. You build some rapport.
Yeah, they're less direct, more personable, but sometimes the personable aspect gets in the way of actually being efficient and getting stuff done.
There's some other controversies that have come out more recently in Medellín with, gentrification and a lot of foreigners going there and the cost of living going up in the area. What are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of that is...
It's been a long time since I've recorded a podcast episode about Colombia. I mean, Boarding Call touches on a bunch of different countries, and so every week is something different. Colombia is the foreign country where I've spent the most time, though. And my wife is Colombian, and so
Nice.
The country is very close to my heart. So I'm excited to get into it with you and talk about Colombia. Why don't we kick it off with a little bit of a backstory, though? Where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
Sure, but before that, where's your wife from?
She is from Saravena.
Where is that?
It's in Arauca.
Never heard of it.
It's like on the border with Venezuela.
Oh, gotcha. So north, like Costeña, she is.
No, not on the water, on the other side.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so on the opposite side of the ocean. So
Okay.
it's the state or province or departamento, right, is Arauca. That's what it's called.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And she's American or she's Colombian?
She's Colombian, born and raised there.
And
Yeah.
you met her when you come here?
No, we actually met online. I was learning Spanish, and so I had this language exchange application. It's called Tandem, and I met her through that. She was practicing her English, and I was learning Spanish, and it's like a platonic application, but things kind of became something else, and I ended up going to
Beautiful.
Colombia and living down there for a little bit with her, and now we both live here in Canada. Yeah.
I think that's the best way to meet people, when it's kind of like not really forcing it and you're just enjoying each other's company, and then you're like, hang on, this person's, could be someone I see spending more time with, and then you go from there. So that's cool. But do you speak Spanish now, and does she speak English?
Yeah, her English is much better than my Spanish is. I mean,
Okay.
even before she met me, I mean, she has, a degree in English that she did in Colombia. She's done her master's here in Canada, also in education in English. And so her English is super good. We do speak Spanish at home, and she does that, really to help me, so I have someone to practice with. And so my Spanish is okay. I get by. Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Mm-hmm.
Great story.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting for sure, and that's why I love talking about Colombia. It's important to me, as a country.
Great.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about it.
So you're from Australia originally, though, right?
From Melbourne, yeah.
Melbourne. Okay.
I am.
You grew up there?
Yep, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Whole life in Melbourne. Yeah, what do you want to know?
I mean, Australia's a beautiful place as well. I did
It is a beautiful place.
a 6-month stint in Australia, actually. Fresh out of high school, I got a working holiday visa and spent some time in Australia. It's a fun place too. I like it a lot.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, man. Like, I don't know about, you're from Canada, right?
That's right.
I don't know about Canada if, a lot of people are looking to escape and run away from there now, like the US. Most of the people I meet down here are like escaping US politics or US culture or something. They want to run away. I never wanted to run away from Australia because I love it. I think it's one of maybe the best country in the world. But just for me at that point in my life, I was 29 when I left in 2019. And it just was monotonous more than anything. Wasn't bad. Wasn't great. Was okay. I was like, am I going to just do this for the next 50 years of being in like this middle ground of nothing? I thought, no, I'm not going to do this. So I thought, I'm going to leave, travel the whole world and try and maybe live overseas and get a bit more, excitement that way. So that, I didn't want to be one of these people who's just following the general thing that everyone else is doing. So I thought I'll leave and do that. But it was never a case of like, Australia's going downhill, or I hate the politics, or I hate the people. Love Aussies, love Australia, love my city, Melbourne. but I just wanted something different, you know.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I mean, there are people like that. There's definitely a demographic of people that like are running away from something more than they're running towards a new destination. And, you know, it makes sense. You know, not everyone's happy with the countries where they're from. I get that. Sometimes they are kind of jaded individuals, though, and it impacts the way that they see the world, right? And it's never about, oh, how great is Colombia? It's always about, well, how much the US sucks or Canada sucks or whatever, wherever they're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, were you an internationally minded person from the get-go? Like, were you doing trips abroad growing up, or was that a new thing for you?
No, so by the time I left Melbourne to, you know, seek out a different life, I think I'd already been to maybe 30 countries by that time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were a traveler
started
already.
When I was, but I started pretty late. Started my first trip by myself was when I was 21. And then I just fell in love with it. And just every year since then, I've been somewhere. And now I'm at just finished my 48th country. So,
wow.
Yeah, a bit of a traveler, you could say.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you kind of went around, saw a bunch of different countries. How did you decide on Colombia for a place to live?
Man, it's like nothing that I had ever seen before, especially Medellín. Like the cost of living versus the quality of life is unmatched. Like from all these places I've been, just like some places are cheap, but they're also shit. Like, not going to mention any countries, but you'd probably have been there yourself. Like you go and everything's cheap, but you're like, I could never live here. Nothing works. Infrastructure is horrible. But have you been to Medellín?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so you know the roads are nice, infrastructure nice, good buildings, beautiful apartments. It's a nice place, a beautiful greenery, parks, and it's just you wake up, you look around, you're happy about being here. So that in conjunction with the beautiful weather every single day, it's like not too hot. Where I'm from in Australia, can be like 40, 45 degrees sometimes. Here it never gets that hot. It's basically like 30 max, and it's between 25 to 30. Nighttime, maybe 18 to 20. You can still walk around in, you know, t-shirt and jeans. So just beautiful weather all year, mixed with a bit of rain. And then I thought, look, I'm going to stop all my travels. I actually was planning to come here, travel Colombia for a month, and then keep traveling all around South America over 6 months. But I never did that trip, and I ended up just staying in Medellín.
So was Medellín the first city that you went to in Colombia?
No, I went to Bogota, actually. I went to Bogota. I was like, meh, this is not bad, but it's kind of too cold for me. And it's like, you know, I'm not that infatuated by it. But then I came to Medellín and I was like, all right, this is the place.
I mean, I can definitely relate to that experience as someone who's been to Bogota and Medellín. I think it's like no contest. I think Medellín is way better. Obviously, like better is kind of a loaded term. I get that it's subjective. I got myself into some trouble with one of my first podcasts that I did. It was about Colombia. I think maybe it was the second one. And I mentioned how I really, really didn't like being in Bogota. And the Colombians came out and they were like, yeah, but you don't know. And there's this and there's this and there's this. It's like, yeah, fair enough. I get it. Yeah. You know, like some people do like it. You know, a lot of people talked about the amount of things you can do. You know, it's a big city. There's lots to do. There's things that are accessible and, you know, jobs, of course, there's going to be more employment opportunities. And I totally get that. But the weather is not super nice in Bogota. That's what I found. Like 19 degrees, you know, kind of 12 months of the year, a lot of overcast, rainy, dreary days. It's not as green either. Like when I was in Colombia, I mean, I guess I should clarify. I was living in Ibagué. I don't know if you're familiar with Ibagué. In Tolima.
Close to Bogota for a couple of hours, right?
Yeah, it's about 5 hours in the bus south of Bogota. And it was super green and very tropical. And Medellín is like that too. Many places in Colombia are like that. But with the elevation in Bogota, it's not quite as lush. And it feels a little bit more kind of like industrial with all of the brick buildings and that kind of stuff. And so I agree that I think Medellín is a nicer city than Bogota is. I know, you know, some people like it. I get it.
Bogota still has a lot of good things about it, and some things much better than Medellín, I would say. One of them is food.
Medellín, like more restaurants?
Food, more restaurants, more international cuisine, better food overall. I go to Bogota maybe once every year and just, you know, enjoy the restaurants. Also, all the best concerts and stuff always come to Bogota. They just have more stuff, more activities, more culture. Medellín can be very homogenous after a while. Like basically here, you go out I don't go out, but if I was to go out, you only hear like reggaeton music everywhere, like nothing else. But in Bogota, they have all types of music, all types of different people, from punk to rock to, people that like hip hop, like local music. Everything is in Bogota. Medellin, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's, they're both very international cities, but Bogota, being the capital is just going to be, next level in that regard. Big airport, right? Big population. I think that the experience I had in Colombia is probably very different than your experience as well, because I was living in a place that was pretty small, right? And so for me, Medellin was kind of a big city in comparison to Ibagué, which only has, about 500,000 people, a very kind of working class town, not touristy at all, not international, not on the water. Like it's just Colombians. And so it was a bit of a culture shock for me coming from Canada, seeing how homogenous it was. Like it was just like Colombian people, Colombian food, Colombian culture, Colombian music. And that's great. I mean, you're in Colombia, what do you expect? Of course. But in Canada, we're very multicultural. You could eat food from any country you want on any given day in most cities in Canada, especially in the bigger cities. And so, you can't compare Vancouver to Ibagué. They're also small, smaller. Like in Colombia, Ibagué is much smaller, but yeah, probably be a little bit different than your experience being in Medellin. How long have you been there now, by the way?
Just over 4 years.
4 years, wow. So you fell in love with it right on the first trip. I mean, it drastically changed your travel plans in South America.
Few days, man, done.
Yeah, you're done. You're like, this is the place.
Couple of days, this is the place, yeah. Really, really awesome.
Did you stay at that point, or did you have some back and forth between Australia and Colombia?
I've never been back to Australia since I left in 2019.
Really? Okay.
Not once,
just went and didn't look back.
Didn't look back and just kept, living.
Yeah. Do you still have family in Australia?
I do. Yeah. So all my family, friends, all in Australia.
And, do they come and visit you in Colombia?
No, actually, not one of my very close friends has ever come. I think it's just because the distance is so far. You can't. It's not like Canada. We can jump over in 5-6 hours, maybe 8-hour flight. From Australia to get to Medellin from Melbourne is going to take you the shortest trip, maybe 20 hours, 30 hours. So it's kind of hard to go back there.
Sure. Yeah, the trips that I took from here, I always had a layover in the States. And so it was like 15 hours with the layover and everything. But
you can't go straight?
You could. It's more expensive. But I think this straight flight is maybe like 8 or 9 hours.
Okay. Still pretty long. Damn,
yeah.
Canada's out there, dude.
We're really far north,
Canada's up there.
We're up there in the Arctic, man. It's a little bit far. I mean, wow. That sounds like a radical kind of life change to be in a different country. You've been there for 4 years, leaving your friends and family behind, kind of like starting over. Did that feel like it was a big step to take?
Not really, because I traveled a lot, right? It wasn't just like been living in Melbourne, sheltered, and just like thrown into Medellin, Colombia. That would be crazy. But I'd done a lot of traveling, as I said, man, already like 30 countries. Before that, Asia, Africa, not South America, but Latin America. So like I had done like Guatemala and Nicaragua and those countries. So kind of these countries have similar, cultures. And I did live in Mexico as well for 1.5 years. Before actually coming to Colombia. So those cultures are, got that Latin culture, Spanish speaking. The places kind of look the same as well. So I was ready before I got here. So it wasn't really a shock.
And up until that point, was Mexico the place that you had spent the most time outside of Australia?
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever spent more than 3 months anywhere. Mexico was 1.5 years. That was definitely the longest by far.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely a big difference between traveling to a country and living in a country, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you start putting roots down and you start renting places and whatever, it's a different experience. It's not like a novelty. It becomes your life at that point.
Yeah, life routine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then you start to notice things as well, things that you might care about more if you live in a place for years rather than weeks. What made you decide to move out of Mexico after being there for so long?
So in Mexico, I was living in a surf town the majority of the time. It was 1.5 years, but I basically was on the Pacific coast, up and down driving and surfing, basically. And it was nice, but after a while, I just got kind of pretty bored because, I was living in smaller towns, just surfing, going to gym, not really doing anything with my life. And I started feeling a little bit guilty after a while because I wasn't just like a kid, 21, 22, fucking around. I was like, 31 at that time. I was like, is this really what I want to do? I got to figure out something and actually have some forward momentum in my life. So I decided, look, I'm going to move from here because that wasn't really inspiring that much of like how am I going to build my career or do something for the long term? So I thought, keep traveling for a bit. Maybe I'll meet someone on the way or figure out something on the way, get some inspiration on the way. Or worst case, I would have seen a few more countries and then run out of money and then I go back to Australia and then start all over again.
Yeah. I mean, you sound adaptable. You're okay with some change, some evolution in your life. That's a good trait to have. I mean, that being said, was it difficult to get used to life in Colombia? I mean, I would imagine it's very different than Australia is. I know you had some international experience before then, but like in terms of, the unique cultural things that are in Colombia, did that take some time?
Cultural things, whereas people talk about like, little behavioral differences and stuff they do. I don't think if you don't work here, it shouldn't really affect you. Like if you're American or something, you have an completely online job, you're working for the US and you're just, enjoying life here. It's not that bad. Yes, they're a little bit slower. Yes, they, are late sometimes, but it is what it is, right? But when you work here, like I do, my business is built here. I work 95% with Colombians. All my sellers are Colombians. So when you get into that part of the business culture, that's when you start getting some headaches.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's actually like, an average life though, is like interacting with people of the country you live in. Like, yeah, okay, like you might be a digital nomad and work from a laptop, but you're not going to stay in a country for 4 years without interacting with people on the street. That'd be crazy.
No, of course. But when you go into the orange juice shop and ordering an orange juice and the guy's, being a bit slow, it doesn't really affect you. But when, you're dealing with a complicated seller who's just, mañana, not doing anything or like not texting you back or whatever, right? It's costing you $1,000 in like thousands of dollars in commission. It's a different type of frustration and annoyance.
Sure. So you mean like not so much that you wouldn't notice it if you weren't working there, but when you're working there, it affects you more. The differences.
Exactly.
I see. So would you say that like the difference in pace is the biggest difference or the biggest kind of culture shock that you've experienced there?
Difference in pace and also the difference in efficiency. So in Canada, probably the same as Australia, when doing business and we're very, very straight to the point, right? So I'm going to text you, Jared, what's up? How you doing? Hey, mate, do you want to...
record a podcast?
Record a podcast. Done. I didn't even ask you, how are you? I just assumed you're good and moved on to the next step. But sure. Colombians will text you like, hola, with nothing else. And you're like, why is this person texting me like, what do you want? And I say, hola back. And they say, how are you? I say, I'm good. How are you? They say, I'm good too. And then, how's your family? How's your cat? How's your dog? How's this? How's that? How's it? Like 30 questions before moving into actually something happening. Whereas we would have been already finished a long time ago. And that kind of stuff can be very frustrating for people to get into, right?
They're less direct.
They're less direct, more personable, but sometimes the personable aspect gets in the way of actually being efficient and getting stuff done.
Yeah, you get things done in a different way, I guess. Like what I've heard in Colombia, I mean, when I was living in Colombia, I also wasn't working there per se. I was working remotely as well. And so I wasn't going to business meetings and, selling people things or any of that stuff. But what I've heard from people is that in order to do business with someone or to collaborate with someone in Colombia, it's important that you know who they are, kind of. You build some rapport, you know me, I know you. We're going to have some small talk and go back and forth. And I think to a certain degree, I mean, I can't speak on Australia, but from the Canadian perspective, we do that more than some other countries. Like we like small talk as well, way more than, let's say, German people or Dutch people, right? Sure. So it's like a sliding scale. And so like as a Canadian, I go like, yeah, I get it. I want some small talk too. I want to get to know people and I want some pleasantries. And when I go to the grocery store, I ask the person how they are, even though you know, maybe I don't really care about the answer. Sure, you know, a German person might say that's crazy, but in Colombia they do take it to another level, where you know, you're not just asking these things, you're asking another list of things, and then you know, Canadians might start to think, well, hey, this is a little bit much, don't you think? And so it is interesting to be kind of in between. You know, I can see the extremes on both sides, I think, you know.
Yeah, you're a very stereotypical Canadian guy, just a nice, polite, asking people at the supermarket, how are you?
You guys don't do that in Australia?
Hell no, dude.
No?
Give me my groceries and let me, like, I would say, hey, go on, but I don't respond. Sure. I don't want a response. I don't want to turn this into a conversation. I'm just like, hey, go on, next, you know?
Yeah, but I'm not really having conversations per se either at the grocery store. I mean, it's really just, it's like, I say something and then you say something back, and that's it. You know, hey, how are you? Good, you good, and then you move on, right?
Yeah,
if you're lucky, there might be like you know, the weather's nice today, or it's pretty cold today, you know, something like that, but not a lot. But what I'm saying is, you know, Germans don't do that at all.
They don't?
No, the thing that they say to you when you go to in my experience, I mean, it might depend where you are in Germany. I did an exchange there for a month, and I remember going to the grocery store, to the Aldi, going in line, and the only thing the person said to me was the price, like whatever I owed them, and that was it. And then maybe when you leave, they go like, have a good one. But there is no introduction, you know?
So they don't greet you?
No.
They just so you got there, put the stuff on there. Yeah. The guy just started scanning.
Yeah.
And said $20.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That was my experience in Germany. And so we're not like that. I mean, we're a little bit more fluffy than that. And, you know, Germans will critique, you know, especially North Americans, as being, you know, kind of superficial. You know, like why are we saying all these things when we don't even mean them? Why are you saying, you know, hey, how are you, or g'day, or whatever, if you don't really care about the answer? Why would you say anything at all? You know, don't bother. And but we do like it. There's some kind of social confirmation, you know, like showing people that you care even if you don't, I guess. I don't know. I mean, why do you greet someone at the grocery store?
To acknowledge that there's a human being there. I think it's a bit rude to just ignore someone and just be like moving on.
Sure. An acknowledgement. Yeah.
Acknowledgement. Right. Yeah.
Right. And so do you think that that's what Colombians are looking for as well when they are asking about your dog and your cat and your cousin and your grandma? Do you think that's...
Probably, but just on another level turned up to 10, you know what I mean?
Sure. It's a more extra acknowledgement, maybe.
Extra acknowledgement, yeah. It's all very, very personal here. So some people like it, man. You know, people come from the US where I've heard a lot of people say, you know, every interaction's about money, money, money. How can I get money out of this person? Whereas here is a bit slower vibe and they enjoy that. But, you know, it's just not for everyone. I have a lot of mates who are business owners and they're like entrepreneurs and stuff. And those type of people get frustrated here because they want things efficient, they want fast. But if you're like a pensioner, just go on about your daily life, relaxing. Those people love it here because it's very slow. So it depends really what you want. But, you know, we're talking shit now. But, man, like all of this, even the negatives and stuff, is much better than, you know, the life I had before. So
sure. I mean, yeah, you've chosen to live there, right? And exactly. I mean, we talk about negatives and positives. Really what we're talking about is just like the amount of difference. I mean, none of these things are better or worse. It works in Colombia just fine, the same as it works in Canada and Australia and whatever else. And if things happen at a slower pace in Colombia, I've also found that Colombians are very understanding about that. I mean, yeah, as a Canadian being there, I'm also used to a faster pace. And so when things would take a long time, you know, whatever, at the grocery store or something, I would also get frustrated about that and be like, there's got to be a better way to do. There's no way that there's not a better way to do this. But I noticed that I was typically the only one that was frustrated. I would look around and everyone else is like, yeah, whatever. You know, it takes the time it takes. And and so I think Colombians have a lot more patience than at least I do. I don't know. I can't speak for all of Canada, but yeah.
That's for sure. They definitely have a lot of patience.
Mm-hmm. Very resilient. Like things are not going to not always going to work out the way that you want to. And that's okay. I think it does feel a little bit more personal too. Like if you were to book a trip to Canada, and you wanted to I'm from Calgary, right? So let's say you fly into Calgary, you want to go to the national park, which is Banff, and you want to see the mountains, and then you're going to get some food and you're going to go home. You could almost do all of that without seeing anybody. Like you would just book everything online. You'd have like an Airbnb, you'd have like a rental car set up at the airport. You'd arrive, you'd get in the car, you'd drive. You know, you could go to your Airbnb and order Uber Eats. We have Skip the Dishes is our Canadian one. You could order that to your Airbnb. You could eat it at home. You could get back in your car. You could go back to the airport, and you could go back to wherever you came from originally. And that would be totally fine. You would get the landscape of Canada. You could try the food. You'd see the weather, but you wouldn't necessarily have to have a personal connection. In Colombia, it does feel like there are more steps of like you have to do this thing in person. You know, you have to go to the bus station and talk to the attendant there and order your ticket, and then you have to talk to the bus driver as you're getting in, and there are more opportunities to interact with people, which you could see as an inconvenience, but it also is like more community minded, I think, to a certain degree of like you interact with your fellow humans. This is what you do. And so I think that can be nice, especially from, coming from a place like Canada that can feel a little bit isolated, I guess. What are your thoughts on that? Has that been your experience as well?
I completely agree with, how someone might think that, like, especially if you're at home all the time, maybe that might be a nice outing to go to the bus stop and talk to someone. But just for me, man, that's like a inefficiency that would irritate me. It's like, that's one of the things about Australia. It's like everything you can just book online, everything you can just buy online. You don't need to like talk to someone to do these simple tasks. But in Colombia, for every simple task, you need to talk to someone.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it depends how you look at it. I mean, you're 4 years in to living in Colombia. How do you see it now? Like, have you gotten used to that way of life, or is it still frustrating for you that it's different?
It's still frustrating. But then you just need to remember things in context. Like, look, you can go home if you want to. And they think, I don't want to. I'd rather deal with this than, go back and pay 5 times the price for things in Melbourne. So it's all give and take, right? Like with everything in life.
Yeah, there is no, quote unquote, perfect country, right? No. And in our home countries, we have our own issues or downsides or whatever. And it is personal to a certain degree, right? What bothers one person might not bother another. Like I said, I'm from Calgary. I live in Vancouver now. The weather here is much better than in Calgary. Calgary is, it gets down to minus 30, minus 40 every winter, snow, ice. I can't take that. I do not. I never liked that. But a lot of the people, everyone in Alberta puts up with it, right? And that's the province. All my family still lives there, and they're okay with it. It doesn't bother them, but for me, it bothers me, so we make personal choices based on the lifestyle, that we want to have, I guess. Another thing that allows us to kind of interface with the culture is the language. How has that been for you? Do you speak Spanish?
I do. So yeah, I'm basically, I would say, 7.5 out of 10 now. Mm-hmm. Conversationally fine. Yeah. But just, I guess when it comes to some instances where I struggle. For example, one-on-one, if it's you and me talking, it's fine. But then if it's like a group of Colombians and I'm talking to all of them, that'll be hard. Or also if there's like background noise, like background music or something like that, or if the audio is muffled, like on the phone or something, that's still difficult. But also because when I got here, I tried really, really, really hard to learn Spanish and smashed it for like 6 months. That was my only goal. But after that 6 months, I got to like a point and then I just stopped. I was like, this is good enough. I'm just going to do something else now. So, but it's definitely something you need because you probably figured it out, especially living in Ibagué. Probably no one's speaking English over there. So you can learn Spanish or you don't speak to anyone. So it's different to Mexico in that regard. When I was living in Mexico, especially a lot of these tourist areas, everyone speaks English because, they're much more familiar with American culture. They're closer as well. So everyone, I never use Spanish there at all. But here it's definitely a must-have. Mm-hmm.
So you started learning when you got to Colombia, basically?
Well, when I was living in Mexico, I was doing Duolingo and I had like a tutor and stuff. But I'd say my level was maybe like 3, just because I was like, no one's really speaking Spanish here, so I don't really need to try that hard. I'm more casual learning. But when I got here, I was like, okay, shit, I got to step up my game. So then I was basically just 6 months going to language exchanges, maybe 3 of them every week. So practicing with other people, natives, for like 6 hours a week for, like 6 months. And then also I made it a thing to remove myself from English-speaking people. So I booked a room in the house of a lady in Medellín here, and she was an older lady, maybe 50. So I knew that she's not going to speak any English. So we were talking, when I was cooking stuff like lunch or dinner or whatever, we would have conversations and everything in Spanish. So I just was training my ear, just Spanish, Spanish, Spanish all the time. So that really worked. That 6 months helped me really get from that, 3 to like 7 level.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds like a pretty much full-on immersion experience. You just kind of threw yourself into it. Did you have experience learning languages before that?
No, never.
So you were kind of figuring it out as you went.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, good for you. I mean, it's an intimidating thing to do, to start learning a new language. I think that sometimes there's an assumption of like, well, if I live in a country, I'll just kind of like soak up the language through osmosis or something. But you still have to put the work in, like anyone else. You got to go through it. Yeah, that's interesting. So a lot of speaking, language exchanges. Did you like kind of break down your learning process a little bit? Did you also do any like grammar study? Did you do flashcards, or were you mostly just speaking with people?
No, so that's a thing that a lot of people maybe don't understand, especially when they're new in their language journey. They want to do Duolingo and online class and read this, read that, grammar, all this stuff. But then when you land in the country and someone just starts speaking full speed at you, like, fuck, I didn't understand anything. So I think that's the biggest key. You got to understand, obviously, what do these words mean? Because, without that, you're lost. Get some kind of vocabulary and understand how the sentences are constructed. But then you got to just get into it and have that Spanish flying at you. And then you got to respond in real time, piecing together your sentences. And just those reps is what's going to make you better. And one good tip for everybody is when you come to Medellín or come to Colombia, you can do this in every country, I guess. Always talk to the Uber drivers. Sit in the front. Talk to the Uber driver. They got nothing else to do. They're basically captive there for the time that they're going to drive you. So you just speak to them, ask them questions about their life, and then you got a free language lesson for the 10, 20 minutes a day that you're in the Uber. That's what I did. Every day I was taking Uber to go play tennis or do something. So that was, 10 minutes every day, 7 days a week, 70 minutes conversational practice, plus the language exchanges that I was doing. Mate, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tons of reps in.
Yeah, so many reps. Yeah, exactly. And the people, they love you when you start speaking, because the taxi drivers and stuff, they get heaps of these gringos who are like not interested in speaking Spanish at all. They come from, the US, and they get mad that people don't speak English. So when they meet someone different who's like actually interested in the culture, they're really endearing towards you. They really, they like you a lot more, and they're more welcoming, and they're happy to help you practice.
I mean, different countries have different reactions to foreigners speaking their language, right? Sometimes the reactions are pretty, dramatic. I speak Tagalog or Filipino, and that is very surprising for people because I'm this white Canadian guy, and I speak German. People are less impressed. They're like, Yeah, sure, it looks like you probably could speak German. Spanish, yeah, it depends on the person. Sometimes people were surprised, sometimes not. But I think the universal is everyone appreciates having a smooth kind of communication with someone else, right? When it doesn't take a lot of work for them to talk to you, when you're able to explain your needs or your wants to someone else in their language, it just leads to a better experience for everybody. You're going to be able to understand the culture better. You're going to make more friends and all of that stuff. I mean, Medellín is a very international place. I think it probably has some of the most foreigners of anywhere in Colombia. Do you see a lot of let's say gringos that are in Medellín but don't speak any Spanish at all?
A lot, dude. I know people been here like fucking 10 years don't speak a word of Spanish.
Really? Uh-huh. So does that mean that the local people speak a decent amount of English as well?
No.
Or how do they make that
these
work?
People just do Google Translate on their phone.
Every day for 10 years.
Every day for 10 years and never put in any effort to learn.
It would be easier to learn Spanish than it would be to do that every day for 10 years.
I know, right?
That sounds like so much
I don't understand
work.
these people. And I think it's kind of disrespectful as well to live in a country and not assimilate at all. Don't even put in like the slightest bit of effort. It's pretty rude because these people welcome you into your country. You're a foreigner, and they're, accepting of you. You should at least put in the basics to learn some phrases and try.
Yeah. Absolutely, And I think that there are some people that are kind of stubborn about that, where they're like, well, I'm not going to learn it. I'll just speak English. I think there are also a lot of people that feel insecure about speaking another language. Like it's like there's a psychological block or something of like, I don't want to make myself vulnerable, I don't want to look silly or whatever. And I think people sometimes acquire these kind of self-defeating thoughts of like, especially English speakers, because we don't have a lot of exposure to other languages. People start to think like I'm incapable of learning another language. And I think that's a real shame, because I honestly believe that anyone with enough motivation can learn any language, just takes time.
Yeah, well, you can basically replace learning language in everything that you just said with anything in life. Like if you're scared and you have a self-defeating attitude, you're never going to learn or do anything, right?
Sure. I think it's just like, and obviously, like, it depends what you want to accomplish in life. There are things that are bigger and smaller. Language learning is a pretty big thing. It's a lifelong undertaking. It takes a lot of reps to be able to practice all of the different skills of speaking another language and understanding it, listening comprehension and reading and writing and all those kinds of things. So, I mean, I get it. It's big. It's bigger than learning how to ride a bike, but it's not the biggest thing in the world either.
Hey, you can just do it bit by bit every day. Like, 10 minutes a day. If you do that for 3 years, you're going to learn something.
Sure. Absolutely.
And that's not much. 10 minutes a day is not much,
Yeah,
like little kids speak different languages, so it can't be that hard.
Yeah. I mean, they do it a little differently too, but yeah.
It's easy to actually learn when you're a kid, but just.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for us, learning English, wasn't a challenge, right?
No.
Spanish.
Well, I can't remember, maybe.
Yeah. What do you think the hardest part of learning Spanish is?
I think it's the listening for me, actually. Speaking is pretty good because you can just do it at your own pace. But then when you're in real time and someone's speaking at you, a native with maybe their own slang, and then you go around the same country and they have like all these different accents, that can be difficult too, because I'm very trained to Medellín accent. But when I go to like Cartagena in the coast, I'm like, what the hell are these people talking about? I don't understand anything.
It's completely different.
So you can completely fluent, but then you go to a different place, 2-hour flight away, don't understand anything. So that's kind of difficult, I would say.
Yeah, Colombia is super diverse. I mean, not necessarily in like, different ethnicities per se, like, like different nationalities, but within Colombia itself, it's very diverse in food and culture and music and accents. And yeah, like you said, Cartagena, completely different than Bogota.
Completely different.
And I mean, even in comparison to where I was in Ibagué, they speak different than they do in Medellín. I mean, Medellín has that kind of paisa, they call it, the paisa accent, which is more like, I don't know. I mean, how would you describe it? More like kind of soft, maybe. Sometimes people say it's like kind of romantic sounding. I don't know.
Well, this is one thing I never understood why it is, but women and men have different accents. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
Is that a thing in Canada?
I don't know. I mean, like I think it's harder to notice in your own language. I think there are probably words that guys use more than girls.
People have like a completely different accent. Like girls have that sing-song kind of singing, and then guys have like a very like smooth kind of way of speaking. Like it's very different, like completely two different accents.
I mean, maybe outside of accent, what I've noticed with Colombian men specifically is they don't enunciate as much. Like sometimes, I mean, it depends on the person, obviously. Everyone speaks a little differently. But it almost feels sometimes like Colombian guys are trying to sound really cool and like tough. And so then they kind of just mumble the words and they don't really open their mouth very much. Where I find that women articulate very clearly the things that they're saying and all of the words. And so for me, like, for example, with my wife's family, I can understand her and her sister much better than I can understand her dad and her brother, just because of the articulation. I don't know exactly why that is. I'm with you. It confuses me too. But you do notice it for sure.
I've never noticed that in English before. Like women and men from the same area, like call it Melbourne.
Sure.
But they speak completely different. So,
but like think of like your typical, like, I don't know what the Australian equivalent is, but like your Chad kind of frat boy. Yeah. I mean, that's a very, like what we would call a masculine way of talking, right? or even like a surfer dude accent.
Yeah.
There is some gender to that, right?
A little bit, true. I guess so.
You know, and so, but yeah, I mean, maybe it's less pronounced in English. Maybe we just don't see it because it's our first language.
That's true. That's true.
Because you do notice things like when you're building a language from the ground up, brick by brick, you have a unique perspective on it because you're seeing it from the outside. Like even, the way that, what words are you going to acquire, like Colombian Spanish is different. I mean, every Spanish speaking country has their own slang and stuff.
But just on that point about the women and men speaking differently, maybe one of your viewers is a expert in languages and maybe can help us with that.
Yeah, definitely. If you know, you mean like if guys and girls speak differently in English as well?
Well, is that a thing in other countries in the world? Like maybe in Germany, of Munich, is there very specific ways that men and women speak? Or is that only a thing that I've noticed and that happens in Medellín? I don't know.
Another experience I had with that was with Tagalog or Filipino. That was the first foreign language that I learned. And
why did you learn that? That's a weird one. That's not really useful anywhere in the world except Philippines.
Yeah, I mean, it's useful if you're in the Philippines, though.
Yeah.
Or in Canada, where we have a big Filipino population. And so I met a girl from the Philippines, but here in Canada, and we had this long-term relationship for like 4 years. So I had lots of chances to practice and speak with her and stuff. And I was speaking with like my coworkers who were Filipino at that time and all of that stuff. But I was talking to her the most, right? Because she was my girlfriend. And so I would kind of imitate, like when you're learning a new language, you hear, and then you kind of, try to produce what you're listening to. And so I would just copy what she said, like vocabulary and tone and stuff. And then later I would talk to Filipinos, other people, and sometimes people would tell me like, oh, you kind of sound like a little bit feminine when you speak Filipino. And I was like, oh, really? And then I thought about it and I was like, well, I guess I was copying, this feminine person. And so it makes sense that I acquired some of those words. And so I do wonder if it's kind of a universal thing, not just a Spanish thing.
You might be onto something.
And again, I don't even hear it really in my Filipino that much. There are some words, sure, but like, I don't hear it as much, but other people had brought it up with me without knowing how I learned it. So
that's funny. So I'm happy I didn't learn Spanish from my wife then.
Yeah. I mean, I did learn Spanish from my wife, so I guess maybe I sound...
Oh, you sound like a girl then.
Maybe I sound like a girl, and whatever. I'm okay with it. As long as they understand what I'm saying, I'm okay.
That's true. That's the most important part.
Let's talk about Medellín specifically. I love the vibe there. I think it's super tropical, lush, green feeling. I love the public transit. The train system's awesome. Metro Cable, the gondolas is a cool experience. All of the surrounding areas, there's lots to do. Guatapé, we went there a couple of times and hiked up that huge rock. And then you have that lookout over all of those kind of, I don't know, is that the ocean? Kind of some water areas?
It's actually a man-made dam.
Okay. Yep. Great view from up top.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it a lot, and it does feel a little bit more, I don't know if like bougie is the right word or what, but there is quite a bit of development in Medellín in comparison to other places.
For sure.
And it's comfortable and it's nice, and I really enjoyed it. I've been there twice, I think about a week both times, and so I don't have a ton of experience there, but you've spent like the majority of the 4 years living in Medellín, right?
Yeah. So this is my home. It's been my home for 4 years. I've traveled to other places here and there. Basically been to every major city in Colombia. So Cali, Cartagena, Santa Marta, Barranquilla, Bogota. All these places I've been, but only for like, a week maximum as a tourist. But yeah, this is my home, man. This is the best city. And a lot of like taxi drivers and stuff ask me like, what do you like? Do you love Colombia? I'm like, well, I love Medellín. All the other places I love as a tourist, but this is the only place I would ever live.
Yeah. And like we were saying earlier, it is a personal choice on what you like and stuff. And I mean, I would live in Medellín as well. I think it's a really nice place. I mean, it's not a city without kind of some controversies as well. Of course, it's like the notorious stomping grounds of Pablo Escobar back in the day. And, things have changed a lot in the last, 20 or 30 years, of course. There's some other controversies that have come out more recently in Medellín with, gentrification and a lot of foreigners going there and the cost of living going up in the area. I know on your YouTube channel, you've made some videos about that topic. What are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of that is, well, there's actually some really, really good videos from a creator in Bogota. Actually, he talks about it. And it's actually, yes, it could be some part to blame for the lots of foreigners coming in. But also, there's actually land scarcity here in Medellin. Like they're not building enough apartments for people to actually move into. So all the ones that are there, when you have, very, very high demand and not enough supply, obviously the price is going to go up. Basic economics, right? So that's a big thing that the government's dealing with now and getting a lot of pressure to like build more apartments and whatever. But that's one of the major costs, because it's not just foreigners coming here. Because if you look at the population growth of Medellin over the last maybe 5 years, you're going to see also a lot of Colombians coming here from different cities. Maybe, for example, from a smaller town like Ibagué or something. People are seeing Medellin as like a rising star in Colombia, because year on year it's winning awards, best place for innovation, best place for this, but blah, all these. So people in Colombia as well seeing that and moving. A lot of Venezuelans here as well. A lot of gringos coming as well. So all this massive influx of people, because whenever a place goes from let's stay away from there to, oh, this place is cool, it's going to get a lot of attention. And with that needs to be more housing so that people can come in there, which there is not. So that's also another reason. I mean, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. There's probably smarter people than us, economists or whatever, that know really the main drivers of this. But that's basically the story of it. A lot of people understand that there's more factors going on, inflation, a lot of things, man. But also in Canada, I'm sure there is Canadians blaming immigrants for all their problems, Australians blaming immigrants for all their problems. US have done it, blame the Mexicans for all their problems. It's just a concept that, like, when you are struggling in life, maybe the apartments that you wanted have doubled in value or something, rather than actually look at yourself and improve yourself, or look at your government, oh, my government's letting me down, let's just make it us versus them and blame someone else.
Sure. Same
concept around the world. And I think that's in large part what's happening here.
I mean, it is a very complicated issue, right? Gentrification. What does that?
Of course.
What does that mean, and what's fueling it, and all of that kind of stuff? I do think that it's probably less productive to point fingers at people as opposed to like maybe finding some systemic causes for those things that, allow those problems to happen. Because in Medellin, there's lots of people that move in there and they make money abroad, and so obviously they have more to spend. But that's what people do, right? People do look for where their money goes farther. Then you have landlords that are or property owners in Medellin that want to make the most amount of money for the properties they have. That's also kind of human nature of maximizing profits. People want to make as much money as they can. And so to blame the foreigner, to blame the property owner does kind of only represent part of the story. I mean, what's the system that allows those things to kind of work unfettered? That maybe is the bigger question. Like, what would lead to more property development in Medellin? That would be maybe a bigger question. Or if they are developing more property, is it affordable housing that local people can enjoy, or are they just luxury houses and apartment complexes that are only going to be rented to people that aren't from there as well? Like, there are bigger questions, and yeah, I guess like what kind of regulation would prevent that from happening is another one.
Well, there is affordable housing, right? This is the same thing that happens in every country, right? Like you in Canada, I don't know anything about Canada, I've never been there. But in Calgary, what is the main best neighborhood to live in?
I don't know, somewhere in the Southwest.
Okay, let's call it Southwest Zone. So you go to the Southwest Zone. Not everyone's living there, right? You got to make some good money, and you got to be, pretty affluent to live in that area. So what happens is, when people can't live there, they look further on the outskirts of thing. It happens in Melbourne as well. Out of all my friends, everybody's making, decent money. No one's like a millionaire or something who lives in Melbourne, but all got great jobs. Nobody lives in the center of all these affluent areas. They're all buying houses and stuff maybe 30, 40 minutes away from the city. You can still do that here, but, people want to buy in the most expensive place, not going to work. You need to
Right.
make more make more money because this is like a basic concept that happens everywhere, right? So that type of affordable housing is still there, but maybe in areas that is not the most like high end, let's say.
Yeah, sure. And I guess maybe like, has it always been like that in Medellin as well, that the more central areas are like only reserved for high income people?
Yeah, well,
Or is that-
basically, you probably stayed in Poblado or Laureles when you stayed here.
Yeah, I think Envigado.
Okay, so Poblado, Laureles, Envigado are probably the three biggest, most desirable areas. And now they're getting expensive. Yeah, for sure. Let's say property values maybe have doubled in the last 5-6 years. So then people look to live further out. But yeah, those places are becoming, more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely do see that. Like, I mean, the housing crisis, right, exists all over the world, here in Canada as well. I mean, where I live in Vancouver is, arguably the most expensive housing bubble in all of Canada. I mean, it's super expensive to both to rent and to buy in the, kind of greater Vancouver area. And so,
How much?
it is, what's that?
How much? To rent a month, for a month, let's say.
So we have a 2-bedroom basement suite and we pay $2,400 Canadian.
What's a basement suite?
It's like a basement of a house that's been converted to a living space with its own kitchen and bathroom and stuff.
So no windows?
There are, but they are small windows kind of at the top of your wall. It's below ground.
Below ground. Okay. 2,400 a month.
Yes. Yeah, Canadian.
Okay. And is that a lot or that's okay over there?
In Vancouver, I mean, it's pretty good. It's not bad.
I was going to say that's not bad.
In comparison to the rest of Canada, it's very expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, wow.
For a basement suite, it's crazy.
Yeah.
There are places where you could probably pay half of this. I mean, it depends. Like, prices are going up. I mean, they have been going up. I think they're kind of starting to settle back down now in more recent times. But prices have been going up all over Canada and in other countries too, right? That's that's the point I'm trying to make, is that does exist in other places. And so the idea of like affordability comes up, in housing and in cost of living and all of that kind of stuff. And it represents bigger problems, I think, than just like the people that are, using those systems, or the property owners, or any of that kind of stuff. And I mean, it has to do with inequality as well. And so, it's definitely complicated, but I think when you have Canadians, for example, when there's disparity between incomes, like there are going to be people who live, in expensive areas of Vancouver that I can't afford. And then there are going to be people who live where I live because we can't afford here. And then there are going to be people who live in, even cheaper neighborhoods because that's what they can afford. You're always going to have that. And that's what you're saying, right? You're always going to have that to a certain degree. But we're all living in Canada, and our wages, fluctuate between the jobs that we do and whatever. But, we have a minimum wage. And so we are kind of all starting somewhat at the same point. Some would argue that the minimum wage isn't enough now. I think I would agree with that. When you go into the international context, let's say in Colombia, and you have someone who earns Canadian dollars or American dollars and then moves to Medellin, now they're competing with people who are earning Colombian pesos for housing. So now the discrepancy between those two earners is not just, I work this job and you work that job. It's like they're so far apart. They couldn't be farther apart, right? Even
That's
just
true.
in the currency, even if they were earning the same kind of dollar figure, having a currency that is translating very well in, the country where you live is beneficial.
Yeah.
So then you see the kind of disparity become more pronounced, I think. So I think maybe that's also something that people criticize about Medellin specifically, and like, let's say Americans coming in with dollars.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It's definitely, as I said when we first started getting into this, it's definitely a reason, but it's not the only reason, right?
Yeah, there's always a lot that goes into everything, isn't there?
For sure.
So do you see yourself living in Colombia, like moving forward for the foreseeable future? Are you happy there, having it as your second home?
Well, it's my first home now.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. It's where you live now.
It's where I live, so it's my first home. Yeah, man. I love my life here. Do you want me to explain a little bit how it goes? Maybe you can't really picture
Sure.
why I love it so much.
Your day-to-day life in Colombia.
Yeah,
is that what you
day-to-day
mean?
life, right?
Yeah. Tell me.
let's just talk about a general day. So today I woke up, no alarm, nothing, really, kind of like 9 o'clock, and went to the local cafe, met one of my mates there, both business owners. We just discussed some different things about, different Facebook ads or Instagram ads or whatever we're doing. Had lunch. And then after that, basically just came home and had a bit of free time before our call. So then I was just kind of, playing some chess, relaxing. And then we had our call, and that's my day over. And then tomorrow, I'll wake up. I'll go. The first thing I'll do of the day is go and have my tennis coaching, and I do that about 4 times a week during the day, during the work day, around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Play tennis. Sometimes after my coaching, I'll meet a friend there. We'll play tennis again for another hour, and then I'll come back and have some lunch at a leisurely pace, and then I'll think about doing some work that day. At 4 o'clock, I got to go show a client from the US some apartments. So I'll be with him from about 4 to 6, and then I come home, and then I'll just spend the rest of the night, just having some dinner and watching a movie with my wife. So it's basically like, the point I'm trying to make is nobody's controlling my life. I'm literally doing everything I want at any time that I want and just living completely free. Tomorrow, if I want to go to Mexico for a month, I go to Mexico for a month. So it's just a really, really beautiful and free life. And I just love it, man. And like, just, as well, like another thing is we knocked a little bit the inefficiencies with the personal kind of culture that they have here. But when it's more just living day to day, it's nice, because I go to the tennis court, talking to all the people there, just blah, 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 talking shit, we call it in Australia, and just like hanging out. And it's just a cool vibe. And I love talking to taxi drivers sometimes. Just get in the front. What are you up to? What are you doing today? And just the conversation just leads anywhere. And I feel like sometimes when you have this like 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, people are always stressed all the time about stuff. They don't have time to maybe enjoy these kind of little moments, because that's what makes everything so special. And like, am I making sense?
You're making sense completely.
Kind of rambled a little bit.
I mean, kind of having like an alternative lifestyle where you can be in control of the things you want to do. I mean, that's always been something that's important for me as well. I mean, that's, a big reason that I got into making content is that I get to make my own schedule. And I prefer doing that. Even if it's a job that I really like, I don't like the idea of having a boss, I want to do my own thing. So I totally get that. And that sounds like a really cool lifestyle that you have there in Colombia. I mean, if we were to talk about like your home culture, I mean, you're married. Is your wife from Colombia?
Yeah, she's from Medellín.
And so with you guys living together, what kind of culture do you cultivate? Is it very Colombian? Is it Australian? Is it a hybrid of the two?
She mocks a lot of my sayings and phrases and stuff. So I think that's pretty funny. She thinks it's very, very funny the way that we speak.
And what does she think? What does she think is an Australian phrase that doesn't make any sense or that's funny?
A lot of them, but she loves saying fucking hell. She thinks that's really, really funny because I say it all the time. Sure. And she does it like how I say it, but like maximized times 5.
Right.
She finds
it's
it exaggerated.
Very, very funny.
Exaggerated.
To make a comedic point.
Yeah.
My wife thinks it's really funny that we say supper for the last meal of the day.
That's dinner?
We say supper.
Yeah.
And I never even knew that was a weird thing until I met her. And then she was like, why don't you say dinner? And I was like, I don't know. We just call it supper. It's what we call it. But she finds that hilarious.
I think it was easy for us as well because she studied in the US for like 4 years. And then she worked in the US for like another 2 years. So I think she spent, 6 years of her life there. So she's fluent in English. Also, she went to like international school from when she was like a little kid, like 4 or 5 years old. So has been learning English, speaking English her whole life and just understands the Western way. So it's not like, started a relationship with someone who's completely, Colombian and doesn't know anything else.
Sure. She's had some exposure to other cultures and stuff like that too. Other languages.
Yeah. Traveled a lot too.
What do you guys speak with each other?
Only English, man. She don't have the patience to deal with my Spanish. Never.
It's because her English is better than your Spanish? Is that why?
Her English is miles better than my Spanish. And like we tried the first few times and like, all right, today, for the next hour, we're just going to speak Spanish. Last like 2 sentences, she's like, nah. So that's a tip for everyone. If you really want to learn Spanish, maybe don't get a partner that speaks English.
Right. Yeah. Some necessity does help in the learning process. It does smoothen things out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I found you originally up from your YouTube channel, and I understand that you don't make YouTube videos anymore, but it was a nice way to kind of get to know you a little bit before the call and, watch your videos and stuff like that. I want to make more of these episodes about Colombia, but I do find that it sometimes it's hard to find genuine people who are from a different country who have moved to Colombia. You find a lot of kind of like passport bro type guys that are just like, there for quote unquote easy women, or they have some kind of other motives that I just don't align with. And I want to talk about culture. I mean, that's the thing that I'm interested in, culture and language. And I find it hard to find people that move to Colombia and just enjoy the culture, like yourself. Have you noticed that as well?
So one of the things I hate most about here, the type of foreigners that come. Like right now I have a lot of good friends, because in the business circles and, playing tennis and stuff doesn't really attract those type of people. But there are a lot of people here like that, man, especially in some pockets very close to the tourist area, where all the party and stuff is. You're going to meet a lot of those dudes who are basically just coming here to, sleep with as many women as they can and then take as many drugs as possible and then go back. And it's kind of a dichotomy or combination that doesn't really exist in that many cities in the world. And obviously, Colombia's a lot to blame for that as well because of their rules and regulations. But yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a thing that also put me off doing YouTube because I would be putting all this time and effort into videos of really helping people, about the culture and the language and things like that. And then someone would just do a video of picking up chicks or whatever and just, blow me out the water. So those kind of things, you're right in feeling that way because that's definitely something that happens. Yeah, a lot of this kind of pickup culture and taking advantage of the country, I would say, and not really caring about the culture or the people at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the kind of the overarching idea is like exploitation, kind of.
Yes, correct.
Whether it's sex tourism or whatever it might be, they're looking to take advantage of the country more than they're looking to contribute anything to the local community. I mean, how does that work? Foreigners sometimes get that bad reputation because of people like that, right? It can create stereotypes about people from other countries of just everyone is just here to use Colombia and that's it. Do you ever get any negative treatment from people living in Medellín that think you're something that you're not?
Not me specifically, because I don't look like a gringo, right? No one can really guess where I'm from. I've been in Brazil and people thought I was Brazilian. I've been in some parts of Colombia and people thought I was from Colombia. So it's they don't see me and immediately get that negative connotation. But I do have friends who, they had to prove themselves that they were actually a good person, not like everyone else, because they look evidently like, a person coming from the States or something. So it definitely is here, but also it's kind of shaken pretty early. If you come here and someone's had a bit of a negative attitude towards you and immediately you speak in Spanish, you understand some about their culture. Think about this guy's, one of us. He's not one of these other people trying to destroy the place. And that's why I say learning about the culture, learning about the language, all that stuff is very, very important because it differentiates you from these people who are just, in your own words, exploiting the culture,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how speaking another language carries so much kind of weight. It's a currency, kind of a social currency of saying hey, I invested years of my life to speaking this language. And so, I care about the culture, at least enough to do that. Right. It's kind of a bit of a badge of honor, I think, and rightly so. Learning languages are hard. It's hard to do that. And so if you've done it, you probably care about the people.
And I think this is an important segment of the, what is it, this podcast as well, because I used to get a lot of comments from people who are worried about coming here because of the what's it called, perception of the gringos. But it's exactly what I told you. It's not that bad. Yeah, they might have those, thoughts. But when you come here and you speak a little bit to them and you show them I'm not like that, then they get over it pretty fast and they treat you they treat you well. And it's not like they're treating you bad from the start, from the get-go anyway. But, you get out of any place what you put into it. So you put the good vibes and, you're helpful towards the country and positive, you're going to get that. If you're negative, you're going to get negative things that happen to you. Like probably many stories you've heard about Medellín specifically and bad things happening to foreigners.
Yeah, I mean, there is that kind of international perception of Colombia that I don't think is really fair. I mean, everyone associates Colombia with whatever illegal activity, organized crime, and whatever.
Which is true.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But not everybody, right? It happens here, but it's part of it, sure. But it happens in many countries too.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be the only thing that Colombia is known for because, like, I'm sure as you know, Colombia has so much to offer.
Absolutely.
And so
I think people are learning, like, maybe in the last 5 years. That's why, like, why do you think so many people want to come and live here? It takes a lot. Think about someone, like, not you, because you have a Colombian wife, but someone who's just a random guy who's like, I'm going to leave everything in my comfortable country and move to Colombia. Like, you got to be pretty impressed with the place, right? So it's doing well. It's come a long way, especially since, 20 years ago, man, it's not a long time. 20 years ago, some parts of Medellín were the most dangerous place in the whole world, more than Iraq, Afghanistan, all these places, just down the road, 20 minutes down the road. And for such a big transformation in only 20 years is incredible. I think the people should be proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super commendable. Absolutely. I mean, maybe that's a good positive note to end this on. I mean, thank you for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. Thanks for having me.
And like before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to promote? I see Medellín Living. Is that your brand?
Yeah, that's my real estate company. So we work with foreigners and obviously locals as well, help them buy properties in the main areas of Medellín. So Laureles, Poblado, Envigado. So if anyone's in the market, you've been to Colombia before, you've been to Medellín and you want to make it your home, then you can let me know. I guess the link's going to be wherever you put it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. You have like a website or something that I can put in the description?
We got a form basically that they fill out and I contact them from that.
Sweet. Okay. Sounds great. Thanks again. I appreciate it.